Hi, B. Hairless mink. Shut up, blue shit. It's me. I'm back. What's good, everybody? What's going on? A little late. Running a little late today, but that's all right. Nothing but hype, man. I had a little bit of time to calm down and gain my composure, so let's get right into it with 1021. For now, I'm just called Demon because there's no way the Viz translates it like that. However, that word is supposed to be said, right? Always support the Viz. But we get into it with that Robin greatness, man. We pick up with the Robin and Black Maria fight, and I'm glad we. As much as I want to see other things, we've been waiting on this fight for literally years. A Robin fight, an in-depth Robin fight. And something I brought up in a few places, right? After last chapter, just talking to the community, I actually was speaking on um, Robin's capabilities, right? Because we see Robin's fighting style has to do more with the ability of the Ana and how to incorporate that. And since it's all physical based, it just makes sense for her to pick up certain fighting styles and techniques, such as Brokushiki or having armament hockey, right? Because she already uses enough of her ability just on her own. And Black Maria even kind of brings this up like, oh, maintaining that huge form, it must take a lot out of you, which she's not wrong, right? I had brought this up last week. One of the things about Robin's abilities that I think just personally is just how I interpret it is that ability is similar to how laws or other characters where they produce something or they do something extraordinary even for the concept of a devil fruit, and it just takes more stamina or energy to do so. Other than like Luffy is different because his ability is passive. There's nothing for him to turn on in a sense, right? With other fruit abilities, you have to activate, and just activating something just sounds like it would use energy. So in a sense, because what the Giganta form that Robin uses is so much bigger than her actual body size, it wouldn't be that far fetched to say that this is a kind of ability is not it's not meant for Robin to be fighting like a fight that's as long as a Luffy fight, right? It's just not. And then she does have limitations as a character to begin with because fighting is not her focus in the first place. It's something that she knows she has to invest time into because of the world they live in, and because of who she is. It's only a matter of time before she's been fighting her whole life, So I like the fact that the brutality of Robin's fight style is portrayed because that's exactly, y'all already know. This is what I was talking about last week, man. We joke about Robin and her humor and stuff like that, but Robin's fight style is not for the faint of heart. It's just not, she breaks a lot of things, and there's nothing, I won't say nothing, but it's something scary about seeing a human, or in this case, a Zoan, or just any creature being broken down to a lifeless puppet, right? Just because you can't move anything, it's not what's hot on the streets. So seeing Robin get to go in, and like do a lot of heavy damage to its own user at that, who they're known for their durability. We talk about the region impact on this channel a lot because it's just top tier. It's just top tier region. It doesn't matter what you do to some of these zones. They just, that's a part of their latent special ability, right? Is regeneration. So in this case, though, I know Zoro got that good wonder drug that's supposed to help him with his pain, but Robin broke a lot of bones, more than likely, and I just don't see, like, even if Maria is to wake up or not be done, quote unquote, not dead, how useful is the Black Mirror really going to be? You know, you better hope they got a sword release. Maybe she has hollow powers or can use a resurrection because I think it's over for her. Now I do like it in the fight that Black Maria is not shook until the end, right? She's still mocking Robin and mocking Sanji basically for putting Robin in this situation in the first place, knowing how of a quote unquote burden she is to have around, right? And obviously, the Straw Hats don't feel that way. They don't even, that's not even their type of mentality. And that's why you don't skip arcs or chapters or panels because Black Maria should have known that already. All it was doing was just making things worse for her. Like I said, like whatever happens to Black Maria was going to be brutal. I said that, just because these type of characters usually get it the worst. Like Orochi still has his coming. You know what I mean? Because Kaido's not a good guy either. But if and when he does die in this series, I don't think it'll be in a way that would be considered demeaning. These other scumbag, slimy, scheming type of characters, they usually catch it pretty bad. So, with Black Maria's first attempts with Sanji, and like even I was saying then, Sanji could have got away anytime he felt like it. And then we seen in this chapter too, even the way Black Maria was using her web, like when she did web cage to block the hands. So this web has durability and stickiness to it, and of course it's flammable, which was my point about why I wasn't worried about Sanji, because even if you didn't want to fight Black Maria, fire is used against spiders in every story you could think of. So it just made sense to me that Diablo Jambe would always be his way out if he really wanted to. It's just he made a different decision, which for Robin, that's character development for her because of how she does feel, right? After an attempted genocide on your people and you running your whole life, I mean, anywhere you go, you're going to feel like a burden to anyone you meet. Just like in some, movies where, like in an action movie where that guy meets that friend he hasn't seen in like 10 years and he helps him that one last time, but his friend always ends up dying, right? Like that's kind of like how Robin probably felt her whole life until the Straw Hat Pirates. So, you know, these psychological attempts by some of the Flying Six in these fights is basically, look, if they would have just shut up and stuck to fighting instead of running their mouth, they might would have found a way to stay a bit more competitive instead of, trying a route that's just been proven to not work. So even after Robin got decked with the knuckles, opine knuckles, whatever material that is, it ain't brass. But we see Robin got cracked. That rung her bell. She was grabbing her whole face, like, oh, okay. I ain't been hit in a while. Forgot what it felt like. And then Robin, being the investor in dark humor, hurting Robin physically. I don't think it really does what you think it does. If anything, she's just like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna make sure it hurts a lot more for you later. I'm just gonna endure it. And I don't want to assume, right? Actually, you know what? Let's get into the flashback part first. I'll save that for last because that's the obvious thing to talk about, right? But oh, that was the thing that was funny to me with Black Maria. Speaking of psychology, as this statement, it may be translated different in the viz, but I just found it funny that Maria said something to the effect of, "You're only useful for your mind," you know, and that you might as well not have limbs. Like that part, okay. But the irony of a woman being told she's only useful for her mind is just absolutely hilarious to me that Oda didn't even write that kind of statement. Because, man, if you would say the flip side of this, you'd be in some serious, it would be it'd be a rough few days for you, at least socially speaking. But I don't think I ever seen that statement used that way towards a female character. That your brain is the only part that's useful. Yeah. It was just like back in the Who's Who chapter who said what he said about Fishman, and then just blew it off like it wasn't a big deal. I just thought it was funny. But so we get into a flashback that, in a couple of comments, probably more than likely Recon, because I mess with him heavy. That's my boy. Shout out to Goatbeard. Him and a few other spots, we were talking about the situation with Robin and the fighting capabilities. And, I brought up the Rokushiki thing in Army of Hockey and some other people because of how Robin has to fight. It just makes too much sense, right, for that to be an upgrade to her abilities, where even though her main focus isn't fighting, she understands, again, that this is a resource that you're going to have to use to get to your goals in the first place. It's unfortunate, but that's the world that the One Piece world is. Information only gets you so far. Of course, only strength gets you. It probably gets you even less far, but you need both. And so to get a flashback with Koala, I'm like, wait a minute. I had to make sure I was still reading the same chapter because that was not even where I thought that we was going. Like, I knew there would be some talking about something, right, during the fight, just because we haven't seen Robin fight in so long. And with new abilities, they were going to be explained, right? We didn't talk much about what Robin can do in Dressrosa, and there wasn't really any opportunity besides now for her fighting capabilities to be focused on. Regardless of how you feel about that, that's just the way it's been. And to see this fighting style, the palm striking, the whole Netero zero hand tiered situation. Going back to Fishman karate, I did not see Fishman karate coming at all. I just, even when Robin first said sea serpent, I just wasn't thinking of. I thought about Sabo, of course, but I hadn't thought about koalas in quite some time, just because there hasn't really been a reason to. But it's interesting that Sabo even offered to teach her Ryosoken during this time period, because I'm like, okay, wait a minute, Saboski. You were one of the people I brought up as him, Kobe, and Sanji, is where their fighting styles would be the type of things that would fit how Robin functions. And to see Sabo Ben be brought up, I'm like, I just talked about this last week. That is absolutely insane. Like, it's not that far fetched, right? Because she spent time with the revolutionaries, but I didn't think we were really go into where Robin learned some of these fighting capabilities that she would have displayed in this fight, and possibly earlier, right? Because she didn't just learn this stuff yesterday. But Sabo just brought me back to Dressrosa, when he knocked in the middle of the ring and talked about the core, which he explained to Robin even in this chapter, like, focus on the enemy's core. Remember, that's what he did before he tapped in the middle of the ring, before he cracked it. And for somebody like Sabo, who had access to hockey before he had a devil fruit, I just think the next time we see him, he might already be stronger than Ace, just because of what they did first in the story, if that made sense. Like, we don't know exactly when Ace learned everything that he learned, but he clearly wasn't a hockey-based fighter, and that was probably something that was still new to him, in a sense. And probably only encountered it when he fought people that knew how to fight Logia, right? Other characters who were just regular scrubs probably had no idea on what to do with a Logia in the first place. But with Sabo, it was different. He learned backwards. So I think, similar to what he's explained to Robin, that concept applies to Devil Fruits as well. And I know Luffy's picked up hockey pretty well in the past 2 years, but I think even if he learned hockey before he started mastering his fruit, he probably would be. I don't know if the gap would be that much different, but I think he would still be stronger, just because the concept of focus and concentration seemed to be persistent throughout all the fighting styles, even with Rokushiki, right? It's all kind of like Roku Ogon is another example of that. So I'm kind of glad this is getting brought up again and applied to Robin, because Robin, and I'll get into that when I talk about the other part of the chapter that I almost glanced over, regarding the robot. And I don't know. Like Hack brought up, like, yeah, Robin's techniques are already, they're good enough, and I'm like, yeah, that's what I've been saying, because she's a brutal fighter. So I like the process of showing each step right before Robin executes this attack. Right, she's chilling with Koala and they're stanced up, and she's learning the Fishman karate stance. She's got her palms out. I'm like, oh, yo, this is in the anime. Because by the time we see this in the anime, we will have seen Koala for so long. Even if you know it's coming, like the anime only is gonna lose their mind about that. Like Koala, people like Koala. That's just another character that people liked. But and then seeing her going like middle floor, fishman karate, like what? Just that string of phrases put together, man. It's crazy, right? Especially because Robin suffered some of the same thing the Fishman has suffered, even though she's a human being, right? Her people have been attempted to wiped out just for existing, right? The world government sees her as a threat. The world government looks at everybody different, but they also look at the Fishman different. You know what I mean? So that whole connection between Jinbei and Robin and being people who know what it feels like to be worried about, are you the last one left of your own? You know what I mean? Like it's just everything comes full circle. Whether it's intentional or not. I just found it interesting to have those two side by side, right? The Fishman people and the O'Harans, because they're both pivotal to the story, even in the series. So for me, it just displayed something different that didn't have anything to do with the fighting itself, but why characters connect with each other the same way Robin and Brooke connect. You could say the same thing for Jinbei from the small interactions we've seen. It just seemed like, oh, yeah, and they're both level-headed, and they understand how the world works almost more than the rest of the Straw Hats do, right? Because they had different roles in life. They weren't just out to be pirates. Like, they had goals that involved dealing with the world government, seeing how they function, seeing how pirates function, like that kind of thing, right? And the extremes, right, that they'll go to. So, not to get too wrapped up in that, but seeing this demon floor thing, hey, look, I really was hyped when Robin said what she said. She's like, yo, if I gotta be a demon or a devil, whatever term that they're gonna use, probably devil, if that's what I gotta be, so the Straw Hats can count on me, taking it all the way back to Ennis Lobby. That's what I'm gonna do, man, because it's just how all the Straw Hats are like that. They always do what they gotta do, and nothing else matters, right? The only thing that's more important to them is each other, and they're outside of the Straw Hat family, like with Zeph and Santi, that kind of thing, or Don and Luffy, and these characters they're just not gonna fold. That's why she folded Black Maria. So this grand jacuzzi clutch, it's not. There's no way it's gonna be called that, right? There's just no way. I'm sure there's a reason for that terminology that I'll have to dig into a little bit deeper later on. But for the time being, there's no way it's going to be called that. It sounds cool, but it just wouldn't make any sense right now. But here's the question: is that armament hockey? And on one note, I want to automatically say no. And this has more to do with symbolism and the fact that Robin is considered a demon child to begin with, and the acceptances that Robin has already had to endure, like even earlier in this fight, like I was saying. Black Maria took a psychological approach to want Robin to succumb to what her fears are in life, and she's already been that route. Like I said before, you're not going to be able to shake somebody like Robin. You know, that psychological attempt, it's just not going to be strong enough, right? That's why the Genjutsu failed. It's just not going to work. Black Mirror ran into the wrong person. That is just what it comes down to, you know. But her actually taking the form, if the shading is armament hockey, which I'm not going to say it's impossible. I just really doubt it. Because I'm really just thinking about surface area, and it's possible, right? Like she has armament and she wasn't really using it because she had to save it for that moment, right? Because from a mass, if we're talking about body mass, right, it would make sense for, in that form, for her to be able to break Black Maria, physically speaking. But because of how strong Zoans are, and what I think, it is possible that during the fight she refused to use armament hockey and she had to save it just for that. And if that's the case, I'm cool with it, because she took some beating. It's not like she's gonna come out this unscathed, right? And like I brought up before, I think with her ability, it does take a lot more energy than any other fruit ability, unless you're overusing yourself. Because like even Cracker, right? Not that I'm putting Cracker and Robin necessarily in the same tier, but Cracker pretty much could make infinite biscuits with his ability. He was getting tired after a point, but a lot of that probably had to do with frustration, right? Because of Nami and Luffy eating his. It's not the first time we've seen devil fruit users who make food get their food eaten. It's not a big deal, but it's still funny every time I see it. Like, but you get what I mean. But I just think because you have to control something so big on its own, right? Crackers, biscuits seem to be sentient to a certain degree, sort of like with Big Mom's homie. She doesn't have to necessarily control them. Once she uses the energy to make them, that energy is there, right? But with something like what Robin's doing, I think she's got to like pour everything into it to even do that. Now, if it's not armor hockey, then I don't know what to tell y'all because this might be like, besides, like I said, the symbolism of it all, it may be something akin to Ashura, where the manifestation of your essence is what is portraying in your attack. That coming from something like Robin, I don't know. That's got me scratching my head on that one because just given her life experience, I would expect it as some around the stronger characters she's been around. But at the same time, it's like that's not the amount of time I would think you had to consume to perfect or even like start to master attacks like that. I just don't think Robin has had the free time to do that or to focus. So it could just be straight up her physical strength has increased, and then because she's using Fishman karate, this might be like a way for her to not necessarily have access to use something like Rio, but she could still have a powerful technique that's physically strong enough to you know, Jinbei punched Big Mom in the stomach before. I mean, he didn't really do anything, but you get my point. Had that been a different character, he would have flatlined him like he did Who's Who. So I don't want to sit here and underestimate Fishman karate because every time we've seen Fishman karate, it just hasn't been disappointing, at least in my opinion. So seeing it from somebody like Robin and just way out of left field, I think it's perfect. I think it's perfect. And then for her being a devil fruit user who will never be able to use Fisherman karate in the water, it's fine for her to be able to use it on land. To me, in my opinion, just because she's never going to be able to use Fisherman karate in the water unless the laws of devil fruits begin to start getting broken towards the end of the series. But I just don't think that'll happen. And then the Zozo in the room. So after all these years, man, and not necessarily with just Momo in particular, with this being age thing. Like, that's been a thing since we've ever found out about Joey Bonnie, which is why a lot of people would think, our fruit is so important because it can probably do something fabled, like along the lines of whatever laws that mortal surgery is, right? If that's true or not, or myth. Joey Bonnie's fruit would probably work the same way. And it's different if you look at Shinobu's fruit and Toki's fruit, right, they operate similarly in the fact that they only move things in time forward. Toki can move herself and other objects forward. Shinobu's fruit can mature you or advance your state of your cells, if we're being, whatever about it, into a further timeline, right? That you're growing. His mind will stay the same, but his body will grow. So I don't think it's clearly very Hunter-ish. It's kind of hard not to see that resemblance. But I think because it's One Piece and it's already a goofy series where even the most broken things are always something. There's always something after it that's just like, oh, okay, I forgot Otis. This is still on the Oda time. So it's possible that like he's gonna get very Chadden-ish. But the funny part is, if you think about it, his body would just be in the same state it's supposed to be, right? As if the time skip never happened for him, as far as his body is concerned. And for him to even want to do that, that means he thought about it before, right? And it's like, well, maybe Momo knows something about his fruit that we just don't know yet because he's never talked about it. It's very possible that he knows some stuff about his fruit, and then his interactions with Kaido would lead him to believe what he should be able to do. Because the thing about Onigashima being saved by him, similar to Noah, right? People have brought that up before. But the Shinobu thing has been a thing since we've seen Shinobu. But that idea isn't new. It's just that we didn't know it would be applied necessarily, because sometimes in the series it seems like when we're very predictable or what we think could happen, it just doesn't. But with this one, it's like, okay, well, we're getting this one. So there has to be a twist to it. What that twist will be, because to him not aging in his mind and heart, that's not enough for me. There's, I mean, it's enough for me. I'm not buying. That's the only thing about it. But I do wonder. I wonder how he came to this conclusion. Was it just like normal kid logic? Well, since I'm a kid and I'm a dragon, that if I become an adult, I'll be an adult dragon. It might be something as simple as that, or did he learn something from Zunisha? I'm not really sure. I just find it interesting that as soon as Luffy told him he needs to turn into a dragon and fly up there, this was the idea he came up with. And it just came out too clean. So I have to assume, like I said, Momo's thought about this before, or someone has told him this before, because he would know who Shinobu was compared to another character, given what Shinobu's previous job was. So it wouldn't be that far fetched. Like, even if he had never met Shinobu at all and just heard a rumor about Shinobu, right? He still could have came to the same conclusion if he knew what the devil fruit was. It just makes it different because he's probably always known like this might have to happen. So I just thinking, man, Momo's gonna be a beast, man. Momo's gonna be a straight up beast. We all knew it. I just didn't think that we was really gonna go this route. I'm anxious to see what it looks like. It's funny, right? Another thing I want to bring up, because I've been rereading. I reread the series once a year, usually in the summer. Um, I started a few days ago, and I think I'll start doing every 50 or 100 chapters, maybe do a video on it, just like talking about little stuff that I've seen that some of it plays out in the series now, like underlying themes, but just watching the characters develop for the first time and seeing all that stuff, like, and trying to, with you knowing what's going to happen. It's I gotta say, like, every time I reread the story, I enjoy it a different way each time. Just because so many chapters pass in between. Usually, by the time I reread, every time there's like an extra 50 to 100 chapters. So sometimes you just forget, like, oh yeah, we're in this arc. And what gave me the idea to want to actually talk about it was chapter 48, man. Chapter 48, man. Boy, yeah. Getting Mihawk for the first time and just what it set up, and listening to Zeph and Sanji and Don Krieg look. Either within the next few days, at least by Monday, I'm gonna have a couple videos uh, out about one about chapter 48, and then just chapters 1 through 50, and I might just do it like that until we catch up to where the series is. Might take me a couple months, but I've been having a real good time with that. to seeing like some of the things that Luffy did for the first time, where I'm like, this fool's an idiot, man. He's perfect, but he's the perfect idiot. Like, oh, and shout out to the cover chapter. And not just the cover chapter with my boy Hard Boiled Senor Pink, but in the Shonen Jump cover, that scene in that top corner, man, Ichigo looked like he grew up a little bit. So I guess we have an idea on what time period when the manga comes back for, I think, 73 pages. They said when that comes back, maybe we have an idea on what time period this is going to be for him. And he still has the same costume on, so I'm just saying, things might not be perfect. It might be a little rough, but yeah, man, Robin, this was her chapter. I'm glad that we got it like this, and I'm glad to see that Robin has been utilizing her connections in a way that we would hope that she was using, right? Being taught by Sabo and learning Fishman karate. Like, oh, speaking of which, did I bring up the Bao Wang robot thing that they showed in the clip after Robin said she overdid it? I might have said that earlier and I'm repeating myself. I apologize, but I've just been all over the place with this chapter. But if they're watching, right, because they were watching the Who's fight and Jinbei, because one, they knew the fight was taking place. Obviously, they're being communicated through the Bao Wang cyber bird robot creepy statue voodoo thingamajig. But if they know that Robin is fighting right now too, that means they've been keeping an eye on Robin. And like I said chapters ago, man, don't trust Cypher Poe, man. They up to something. They're not just there saying like, oh, they didn't come there to confirm one death. That's not all they're there for, right? Between the ties of Orochi, what they know is going on right now, if they know about Sword at all, and then on top of that, just watching Robin's fight and all that, and they just seen what she did right now, because that's something nobody ever seen her do. The crew don't even know about this. Brooke is the only person that right now, besides what's being reported about the fight, knows how strong Robin really is, and that's crazy to me. But I still don't trust Cypher Paul. I said it's cool if Robin has to fight somebody like Black Maria, but if it's Queen or King or Big Mom, it's a wrap. Somebody's gonna have to come, especially right now because she's tired. But if one of them Cypher Pole agents come down there, oh, who knows? So I know we're going on break. Got a lot of time to think about some stuff. Y'all enjoy our weekend. Thanks for stopping by. And I'll catch y'all in a few days with some pre-time skip goodness from the beginning of this great series that's been around for, man, it's soon we'll be saying 30 years. And that's just crazy to think about. I've been reading this story basically my whole life. Y'all be easy. Peace.